Welcome to another episode of CrossTalk, your 6th Plymouth edition of CrossTalk, 6th Plymouth edition. Doesn't roll off the tongue.
I'm biding my time.
with Josh Cutler. I think next time
make me do it.
Make him do it because
Yes.
it's such a tongue
And then you
twister.
can mock me.
As you can see, we're at a different location.
Yes.
We did this because last time we had the representative in studio. He wanted some changes made, and voila, we have made some
Very demanding guest, you know.
made some big changes here. Welcome
Kevin,
back to
it's a
your
pleasure. Thank you.
program. Thank you for inviting us up to your new office. These are new digs, right?
Yeah, so we're here in room 26 of the State House in Boston, here in our office. I don't know if maybe you can pan around with our great Kramer crew here. But thank you so much for coming up and making the trek. We're pleased to host, and it's great to have you up here and invite the folks back home to kind of see a little bit of a window into what our work is like up here at the State House.
Well, the hope is that eventually we can do another day on the Hill.
Yes.
With
nice.
the two representatives that are in the Whitman-Hampton Community Access viewing area, which would mean yourself,
Right.
and
Jeff, yeah.
Rep Deal, who does his own program. But it's great, and I have to say is that collectively, that the three legislators who represent the Whitman-Hampton Community Access viewing area, new to the fold, he's already done 2 episodes, is State Senator Mike Brady.
Very good. Excellent. Well, we love Senator Brady, so it's a good team.
Talk to us about what's the latest thing that's going on up here. Now, as we came in here with our equipment, we were setting up, you had realtors who were here. We were walking in, we saw folks who were protesting about the nuclear power station in Plymouth. Talk to me, it's a busy day up here.
Yeah, it is a busy day. We picked a good day to film this episode, and like any day at the State House, there's a vibrancy that's really terrific. There's people outside protesting, people coming in and sharing their views and trying to voice their opinion on legislation. And regardless of where you fall on the political side of things, I mean, it's kind of neat to have that kind of citizen activism showing through. So today, for instance, it was Realtor Day on the Hill, and so we had a great crew of realtors from Pembroke, Duxbury, and Hampton coming up to talk. They're still here as we speak. Some of them were in my office just a short time before you guys arrived, talking about some of the issues that they're trying to push and advocate for, whether it's policy items or budgetary items. So they came up. We had folks. I had a visitor just before that from Duxbury talking about the mass film tax credit, which is something that I've always been a supporter of, and there's been some discussion about whether we should continue to have that. And so this gentleman was coming in to kind of advocate for that and for the jobs that it's helped create and the economic benefits that it's brought to our region and really the whole state.
For folks who don't know, what are some of the benefits? What are the pros and the cons to the film tax credit? Because I know that it's good to be able to lure this industry into Massachusetts. We've seen a number of films that have been done in the area, but then some people say that there's issues with being able to sell off that credit or use it as a commodity. And is it something that that we really need now? Sure.
No, it's a fair question. So Massachusetts, a number of years ago, before I took office, passed the film tax credit. It's called a tax expenditure. So it's a credit that's given back to the film production industry if they agree to shoot their productions here in Massachusetts and use local labor and so forth. And it's a generous tax credit. So like any tax credit, I think you want to scrutinize that and make sure that the consumers or taxpayers are getting sort of the bang for the buck in return for that. And I'm a believer that they are. I know there's different points of view about that. I think if you look at the ripple effect that this has on the economy, it can't just be measured in terms of direct dollars, but I mean, think about the extra folks that are involved, the police details, the local businesses that benefit, all the ripple effect across the economy. I think it really has done a good job of putting Massachusetts on the map in terms of film and TV production. We have a new TV show that's going to be filmed in Massachusetts, first time in a long time.
Right. We've had a series, right?
A series, yeah. So regular series. We had a couple of feature films that were filmed here on the South Shore. In fact, The Finest Hours, which is a great movie I saw last year, was filmed right here on the South Shore. Sure. Parts of it were in Duxbury and Pembroke.
Patriots Day.
Patriots Day. So that those are local folks, and I can tell you, I've had people from Hampton and Pembroke and Duxbury who work in the film or TV industry who've reached out to me and shared with me their stories, how this tax credit helps to keep them employed or put dollars in their household. So I think on balance it's been a benefit, and we have to sort of beat back some of the attempts to get rid of it, because I think it's been a positive thing for Massachusetts.
We know one of the things, here we are, we're still waiting for the fiscal year 2018 budget to make it through to the governor's desk once it's out of committee. Don't we need all the help we can get in regards to stimulating local economies, and is this not something that helps local economies when they pick certain sites?
Yeah, certainly. I'm a believer in that. I understand, like any tax credit, when budgets are tight and revenues are not as high as we want them to be, we have to make tough decisions. But this is a decision I think has benefited our economy, and it has even a larger intangible effect. I think it brings a lot of pride to the state, to see some of these projects come here, and so. I think it's a net benefit, and it's something we should be worth holding on to and protecting. And I think here in the House, the Speaker's made it clear that he's a supporter of the film tax credit in the past, and I think we'll continue to be strongly in support of that, and hopefully that will continue to be the case here in Massachusetts. But it's a fair debate, and happy to have that debate.
Talking about debates, I think the one thing that's also interesting is it's a timely matter, and that is recreational marijuana.
Yes.
Where's the conversation stand on that? Is that something that there's been a buzz in the halls here at the State House?
Yeah, so that was another big thing going on today. Actually, we're having a discussion. There's a committee hearing being held probably as we film this at the State House that's going to report out a bill that will be voted on this week, making some changes to the law that was passed last November at the ballot, legalizing recreational marijuana. The fundamentals of the law aren't going to change. It's still going to be, we're going to respect the will of the voters in terms of adults' ability to buy recreational marijuana, to grow it in their home, at certain limitations. None of that will change. What I think the discussion is going to focus in on is a few things. Number one, the makeup of the commission that oversees the marijuana industry. We want to make sure that it's broadly representative. I think the bill that you're going to see come forward is going to make some tweaks so that in addition to having our state treasurer oversee that, we're going to have some input from the governor's office and also the attorney general, so bringing more people into the fold, which I think is important. You're going to see some new restrictions put on edibles, which is a concern that we talked about last fall during the campaign about the candy bars and
the confusion.
The confusion that I have a 10-year-old kid. You can see his pictures maybe in the background, and it's very confusing when you see some of these products that are marketed ostensibly to adults, but look like kids' candy. And so I think that's entirely appropriate to put some limitations on the edibles. And I think you're going to see some changes to the tax rate. It was one of the lowest tax rates in the nation in terms of other states that have passed recreational marijuana, and so we're going to increase that and also, or seek to increase that, and also increase the share that the local cities or towns that have these shops in their districts, in their communities, would get.
So they've kind of bumped it up, because wasn't it was like a low percentage, I believe, that they would be able to tack on as a local tax.
Right, so there was the local sales tax, then a 3.75% excise tax, and then a local option 2% tax. So I think you're going to see a significant increase in that. I think the number's around 20 to 26, 28%, which still makes it less than, say Colorado, Washington, some other states that have legalized it. Because as we know, there's costs that go along with this that are going to be borne by the public, and so we want to make sure that at a minimum it's paying for itself. So that'll be a big change, and I think finally the other big change, which again I welcome, is giving more local control back to our city and town leaders so that they can make decisions about whether or not they want to where they want to zone these shops and whether they want to allow them at all or limit the number to our boards of selectmen or city councils and so forth. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion, and maybe not all those things will end up in the final bill, but I think that's the bill that you'll see emerge from the House, and I expect a pretty good debate. There's been a very robust debate so far, and I'm sure that will continue.
If I can kind of jump in on when you talk about local control, well, what a lot of communities have been doing, because it's not definitive as to what's going on because the commission is being put together, is putting a moratorium in place. Is there a possibility that that could be a a moratorium that at least the hopes in the bill that if they wanted to say, no, we don't want this in our community, it would be up to them whether it be something that is done by a local, whether it's a mayor, a city council, town council, or selectman or alderman.
Sure. Yeah, no, exactly. And I think most of my communities have already sort of done that step, and I know Duxbury's in the process of looking at that. So I think the bill that you're going to see emerge from the House is going to make it easier to do that by not requiring a separate town meeting to do that. Sure. So in other words, the local board of selectmen could have a public hearing and have a vote themselves. So it makes it a little bit easier and I think less cumbersome because many towns only have a town meeting once a year. So I think that's what you're going to see. And again, whether that ends up in the final bill will be up to the negotiations between the House and the Senate, and obviously the governor, what his view is. But I think that's the bill that you'll see from the House. We'll be trying to put more power in the hands of our local boards to make that decision. So
I'm sitting here, I'm perusing your letter, your newsletter.
Oh yes,
here.
Our summer newsletter, which is already out of date. There's been so much going on, but still lots to talk about.
You got a couple of things that are definitely very interesting. Death benefits for first responders. Talk to me. I don't know if you want to talk about that, or even a House bill that's going to ban state prison labor.
Yeah. So this spring, obviously we're grappling with the budget, and that's been the number one priority. We have to pass a balanced budget every year, and unlike our counterparts in Washington, D.C., who don't necessarily have to do that. So that's the main focus, but we have done some legislative work this spring already. You mentioned a couple of bills. One was to increase the death benefits for first responders, firefighters and police officers. It's not something we like to talk about, but unfortunately when it does happen, and it was a firefighter from Watertown who passed away on the job. And so to increase the amount that his family is able to get to help compensate for that terrible loss.
Kind of doubled, right?
We doubled it, yeah, we doubled it. So that was something that the Speaker had put forward, and that the Senate agreed, and I think the Governor's already signed that, so that has taken effect. So never an easy situation, but want to make life a little bit easier for families who are in that kind of tragic position. We also took up a bill dealing with the use of prison labor, which has been an interesting issue given what's going on at the national level. There was some talk about trying to have prisoners here in Massachusetts maybe shipped down to Texas to help build a wall. And however you feel about that topic, from our point of view, having Massachusetts taxpayers foot the bill essentially to send prisoners down or over to another state, at least in my view, didn't seem like an economically smart move, not to mention the liability that would potentially incur. Our prisoners here in Massachusetts already perform a lot of functions here in the Commonwealth. In fact, we've had inmates from the Plymouth County House of Correction who've repainted the Hampton Town Hall and the Senior Center, I believe. And that is, I think, a good role for both the town. It saves us some money, and it also, I think, is a rehabilitative step for inmates who are going to be back out in the streets, and giving them a way to kind of take some steps in that direction. So I think it's a positive thing to do that, but making them political pawns and shipping them to other states for political purposes, I think is not in our state's best interest. And so we made a definitive statement that wasn't something that we felt the Commonwealth should be doing, and so that passed the House earlier this spring. Okay.
So basically it's pending to see what the Senate is going to do, and this does not prohibit them from doing work within the Commonwealth.
No,
it's just outside of the state.
Correct, exactly right. In fact, we made that point very clear that we actually support and endorse the idea of prison inmates doing community service. I think that's a positive thing, and simply it should be done in Massachusetts.
And you mentioned about the painting Hampton Town Hall.
Yeah.
Was there much of a debate about the color? Because I know in another community on the South Shore, there was...
Don't name names.
I won't name names or districts, but there was kind of a debate as to what the color should be. Should it be something that be back to when it was originally painted, or should they go for another shade?
Well, the Hampton Town Hall, as folks who know, is a nice shade of blue. I think it's lovely. I think it's one of the nicest looking town halls with the pond and the backdrop. So I think whoever made that decision chose well. I don't know who that was, but I think it looks very picturesque.
Okay. I want to talk to you about a meeting that I know you were part of recently. It was called by the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And this is in regards to funding. It was something we know that during, Whitman and Hampton both practice town meeting, and the annual assessment that the school was seeking was higher than past years. And while there was a bit of a concession that was put forth as to what what would be giving this upcoming for the 17-18 school year for the annual assessment, the thought was to start the conversation a lot earlier as to what can be done. Give me your thoughts on that conversation that started recently.
Yeah, no, I thought it was terrific. The school committee, and it wasn't just the school committee, it was all the stakeholders.
Stakeholders, right.
Selectmen and town administrator and folks from the FinCom and folks in the community. We had a meeting at Whitman Hampton Regional High School just this week, and I was pleased to be invited, and Representative Deal had an aide there, and so did Senator Brady. I think it's great to have that conversation now, looking forward, because as typically is the case, we are under the gun, and times are tight and time is short, and having that sort of discussion is difficult to do in that environment. So starting now, when we're looking prospectively forward for the next fiscal year, is a smart way to go. So I think it was great to see the proactiveness. Is that even a word? I don't know. The proactive.
It is.
I just
it
made
is
it up.
For this show.
Yes.
It is for this show.
The proactivity put forward by that. So and it's a challenging discussion about revenues and do we have enough? Where can we find? If not, where can we find more? What is our spending where it needs to be? And what are our priorities? For school and public safety and DPW. It's the same kind of challenges that I see in a lot of communities, and we're having the same conversations here at the state level. So it's certainly not unique to Whitman and Hampton, but it is an acute situation and something that we need to talk about and try to be all on the same page. And I think I was heartened by the discussion. There was a lot of good back and forth, and we had folks from the school committee and the selectmen all working together, which is great to see. Great to see Hampton folks and Whitman as well doing that. So. We'll have to see where we go from here. From our point of view, every year during the budget, we're trying to get as much local aid as we can. We've talked about this in the show in the past. One of the things we're always working for is what's called this minimum per pupil increment.
Which you've been able to increase.
Yeah, so we've been able to see some increases in that. Again, it's not a cure-all for our budget woes, but it certainly helps. And so, Representative Deal and Senator Brady and I were always trying to increase those numbers also for other line items that affect local aid, things like special education costs, which we know are a growing concern, charter school reimbursement, regional school transportation. These are all line items that affect the bottom line for our school and town budgets. And so trying to make sure that we're doing everything we can from our point of view in the House and the Senate to get as many revenues back to those line items is sort of an annual effort. But it's only one piece of a larger discussion about the state of the town and school budget, and that was what the meeting on Monday was all about, and I think it's a good first step.
My question to you is, did you feel that there's going to be, that the two communities are going to be looking more towards the legislative delegation as to what could be done up here at the State House, or is this going to be, it's going to have to be more so a combination of what can be done up here at the State House, but what they can go to the taxpayers in each community?
Yeah, so I think the folks there understand that this, especially Whitman Hampton School District gets over 50% of its funding from the state, so it's a fairly generous amount, especially when you compare to some of the towns that are surrounding us. It's significantly higher, except for Brockton. So I think there's an understanding there that looking for the state to kind of maybe bail us out is not going to be in the cards. And while we're going to fight for every dollar that we can every year, there's not going to be some dramatic change in situation. So I think they understand that and are working to try to address it locally. And we're going to continue to fight as hard as we can to get every dollar, but we want to have an adult conversation, make sure everybody's understanding what the situation is.
Another thing that you got outlined in your newsletter is providing tax relief when it comes to college. What's going on with that legislation?
Yeah, so that's now in place. So good news, that was something we were able to include in the budget last year, which has now gone into effect, that for the first time you can now have take a tax credit, a state tax credit on your state taxes for costs of higher education. So I believe it's $1,000 for individual, and I believe it's $2,000 for a household. You can take as a tax credit to help pay for the costs of higher education, which again, my kids are young, but I know it's staring me down in the face. Soon enough, they'll be hitting that.
You'll be activating that 529,
right,
won't
yeah,
you?
Right. So this is another small way to help parents to save for their cost of college. And Kevin, if I may, while we're talking about that, one of the other things we did last term that has just gone into effect, which has really been neat to see, is what's called these ABLE accounts. I think that's on the other page there.
It is, yeah.
Which is very similar. You mentioned 529. Many of our listeners, viewers may be familiar with that, who have kids who've saved, or it's a way you
Investing
can
for education.
save, invest for education in a way that's like a 401k essentially.
Right.
But for students who maybe aren't going off to college or have special needs, who have just as many needs in terms of saving for their future, we wanted to have an option or an avenue for them. And so the state has passed what's called the ABLE, A-B-L-E, ABLE accounts, which are very similar to 529 plans, allow parents to put aside money in a tax-free or tax-deferred way to save for their kids who may have special needs, save for their future care. And we just rolled it out. Fidelity was chosen as the broker for it, and they have their program. It's available at fidelity.com, ABLE accounts. We had an opening ceremony with Governor Baker just last month, and sort of rolled it out and trying to get the word out. People are aware of this new option. It's it's a powerful tool, and the key thing is it doesn't affect. If you are someone who has a child with special needs, there are a lot of federal programs, and your income levels can affect your eligibility for that. And so you're very, watchful and want to be concerned that you're not going to lose out on eligibility for something. And so the nice thing about this ABLE account is it doesn't disqualify you from any other
SSI or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep,
It's
yep.
exempting. Anything you save towards that is exempted from many of the other
Okay.
federal eligibility requirements. So you're not going to lose out by saving money, which is a concern for folks. So it's a great, way to save for folks who have kids with special needs and looking forward to the future. So I would encourage everybody to check that out. It's ABLE accounts.
Yeah, and ABLE is, the acronym is Achieving
Better
a
Life
Better Life
Expectancy
Experience Savings Plan.
Thank you.
Fantastic. I want to take a moment to recognize something that you've done since taking office, and that is showcasing the talents of some of the young folks in your district, the art show.
Yes, well, it's appropriate since we're filming this one up at the State House. Earlier this year, we had our annual student art show. We had students from Whitman, Hanson, Pembroke, and Duxbury who entered pieces. It's all high school age students. We've done it every year since I've been in office, so I think it's the 5th year. And we exhibit their works up here at the State House, and we have them, up on the 4th floor. It was terrific. People could walk by and check out all the great art. We got a lot of good comments. I believe we had 90 plus entries this year, which was the most we've ever had. And we had a panel of terrific judges, art experts, not me, of course, who made recommendations and actually made awards. And we had best in show and first place, second place in different categories. And we had a lot of kids from Whitman Hanson who did really well in it, number one. But just in general, we had a lot of kids participating in it, and it was neat to see. And so the show itself is down. It was on display here for a period of time at the State House, but all we took pictures of all the artwork, and it's on my website now, so people can still check it out. And it's neat to have that. It's neat for me because I got comments from other reps and senators who checked it out, and say, that's a neat idea. I should try that in my district. And so it was fun.
While we have a couple of minutes left here in your office, and again, we thank you for welcoming Whitman Hanson Community Access up here to be the new set of the 6th Plymouth District Edition of CrossTalk.
We don't have that puke orange thing in the background that I used to make fun of, or
It was a gobo light.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Color.
Oh, I've offended you, Kevin. I apologize.
No. But there are other shows that appreciated it and still do. But what I would ask you is that anything we've touched upon in regards to upcoming things in your district that you want to at least just kind of let folks know about?
Yeah, well, one thing I know, we were chatting about this off camera that's coming up that we were working on with a mutual friend of ours, Peter Brown, who you know from Tiny and Sons, great local business. His father passed away last year, and we were able to successfully ask the state to dedicate an intersection in his memory, and that's going to be happening later this month at the corner of Route 14 and Route 53. I know probably half our district probably drives by there every day. I usually do.
I do.
And so there's a plaque. It's actually up right now, but it's got a cloth over it so you can't see it. And we'll be formally dedicating that. So that event is coming up, and that'll be a nice way to commemorate someone who gave back a lot to our community. So that's just one thing. There's a lot more on the agenda. It's actually a busy time of year at the State House and also around the district. Lots of events going on, lots of policy issues dealing with up here. And it's a good segue. I know we're running out of time, but I wanted to hopefully, maybe at the end of this, you can get a shot of our great crew of interns that we have here, our staff, who do a great job.
Well, you don't know it because you're sitting here in front of the camera, but as we're talking right now, folks are seeing some of the great folks that you have.
It's the magic of television.
It's the magic of television, folks. Don't know.
We have Cole Angley, my legislative aide, who is a South Shore, a lot of South Shore roots himself.
Who made this happen?
Who made this happen?
He
does all the work. I just show up and look,
Yep.
do my thing, but he does all the work.
He got his parking. I mean, we would have done this a little earlier, folks, but parking was kind of the thing. We're like, last time we were up here doing the Day on the Hill, we actually had to lug our gear from a parking garage way away. And we're like, no, yeah.
So this time you got to park under the arch, right?
Oh my God, it's like, I feel like I have an office in here myself.
See, well, this is the people's house, so you're always welcome here, and everyone else is as well.
Thanks.
But Cole, we have some great interns, Lila, Hameda, Cooper, Alex. So that's a fun part, is having the interns up and learning about the State House and get their energy and their terrific work. And so it's Team Cutler. Glad to be here.
And so with the summer, things don't slow down for you necessarily? Does it seem like there's an uptick in what you do and working with some of the different groups, not only in your district but around the South Shore?
Yeah, no, I mean, probably in August it'll slow down a little bit, but June and July are busy because we're still working on the budget and trying to get everything done. And it's a busy time. There's a lot of events going on, so it's actually picked up lately.
Okay.
Thankfully, the heat isn't as bad as it was earlier in the week, but it's a busy time of year, which is good. We like it busy. Get more things done. So.
If folks want to reach out to you, as we do at the end of every program, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, we're here in room 26 of the State House, so we always love visitors. If anybody wants to come up and go into Boston for a day and wants a tour of the State House, let us know. Call us in advance. We can arrange a personal tour. If I'm not available, my aide Cole can show you around. We can bring you down here, and there's lots to see both in the State House and around Beacon Hill. So that's number one. And if you have a constituent issue where people need help navigating the bureaucracy or having an issue with benefits or just whatever the case may be, we're here to help, and we want to help people. And so I encourage you to come reach out or come to my office hours down in the district in Hampton, Pembroke, Duxbury Senior Center at Town Hall. And if you want to reach me on the website, it's www.joshcutler.com. So we're here to serve and look forward to hearing from folks, and just don't be shy about reaching out.
Thank you for inviting us into into room 26.
Room 26, yes.
And that's it, all the time that we have. We'll probably be back in studio, less the orange colors in the background. But stay tuned for more CrossTalk featuring your state representative here, Josh Cutler. Until next time, have a great day.